Good morning, girls. I hope you're all doing fine, and I think you'll have all done well in your P1 exams. Yes, you have already got your marks, I think. But anyway, marks are not so important as is how you understand the lesson, how much knowledge you gain, and how you implement what you have learned in your life, and how you practice the values that you get from your lessons in English. Yes, girls, and learning a language is more important than the marks. You got to how do you learn the language? By speaking every day in English to either to your brothers, your sisters, or to your parents, and also by listening to the news in English, reading newspapers, reading storybooks in English, and this will help you develop the language, and you will have a good command of the English language. Yes, girls, now we are back with our lessons again, and this time it's a poem. And this poem is a very thought provoking poem, and this is because it's about some of the very important people in our country, and they defend our country day and night in times of peace, in times of war. Yes, girls, I think you understand who I'm referring to. It's our soldiers. They sacrifice their lives when our country faces crisis in times of war. And then we are all very proud and we say that they are our brave hearts who have sacrificed their lives for the country. They become martyrs and we always honor them. But at the same time, there is great sorrow behind every soldier's death. It's a personal loss to the family. When they go back to their families dead, it is a great loss for the family. They suffer a lot of grief and pain, so which no one else can understand, but only the family themselves, the members of the family themselves. And this is a poem. It's a thought provoking poem. When you read this poem, you began to think of the many soldiers' families who went through the same kind of loss, the many young widows of our country and the other countries in the world. So, everywhere it's the same story. And this poem helps us to reflect this issue of the death of a soldier. And here, the poet writes and makes us feel uh, sorrow and sympathy for the young widow in the poem whose husband dies. He was a soldier and he dies in war, and they bring his dead body home. And her reaction to this is written in the poem. So let us go on to this poem written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. He is the poet of Great Britain and Ireland, an English poet, and he has written many poems. So I will talk about him now and show you how and tell you about the works of Alfred Lord Tennyson. And the name of the poem is Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. So let's move on to the poem, girls. You see, girls, in this picture, the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was born in 1809 and died in 1892. He was a poet laureate of Great Britain and Ireland for the greater part of Queen Victoria's reign in the 19th century. A poet of outstanding talent, he enjoyed great appreciation in the United Kingdom. His works include short poems such as Break, 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 The Charge of the Light Brigade, and Tears, Idle Tears. And so, this poet is a well known poet of Great Britain, girls, and he has written this poem, Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. So, now we'll go on to the poem, girls. In this picture, you see, girls, how soldiers risk their lives. Sometimes it can be dense forest areas, sometimes it can be the deserts of Rajasthan. Wherever they are posted, they have to defend our country on the borders. And here you see soldiers at their respective posts protecting our country from the enemies. It's not only the our country soldiers, but every country soldiers protects their enemies, protects us from enemies. Now you see, we are going to think about when a soldier dies, how he is brought back home, and what goes through the family. The family is pained and they bear a lot of sorrow over the soldier's death. So you just have to imagine the life of a soldier and when he dies, how his family grieves for him. Here's the poem. Home they brought her warrior dead. Now you can see the soldier there in the picture and the young widow sitting at the side. His young widow with her child. And moving on to the first stanza of the poem. They say, read this tragic poem about the loss felt by the family of a war hero. Home they brought her warrior dead, she no swoon no uttered cry. All her maidens watching said, she must weep or she will die. Then they praised him soft and low, called him worthy to be loved, truest friend and noblest foe, yet she neither spoke nor moved. Stole a maiden from her place, lightly to the warrior stepped, took the face cloth from the face, yet she neither moved nor wept. Rose a nurse of 90 years, set his child upon her knee. Like summer tempest came her tears, sweet my child, I live for thee, by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So here we see what happens. They brought the warrior dead. They brought her husband who was a warrior, the dead body of her husband's. But she never cried, nor did she utter a sound. She neither swooned. Swoon means fainted girl. She neither fainted nor did she cry. And all the people who were there, the young girls, maidens are young women or young unmarried girls who were watching, they said she must weep or she will die. She has to cry. If not, this is going to affect her badly. She will go into a state of shock. So she has to cry. And then they praised him. They tried to make her cry by praising him, telling of his values, of what a good man he was. And they called him worthy to be loved. He was a man worth loving. And they said he's a truest friend and noblest foe. Foe is an enemy. But even though they praised him, she neither spoke nor did she make any move. Then a maiden got up from her place, and then she went close to the warrior. Lightly to the warrior's step means she went quietly there, and she took the face cloth from the face. She lifted the cloth so that the face of her husband could be seen by this young widow. But even then, she neither moved nor wept. She was in an utter state of shock. She could not believe what she was seeing, and she could not even cry nor speak. And even though they spoke about him, his virtues, what a good man he was, and they even said that he was a true friend, but whatever they said, nothing made her cry. And then even after they took out the face cloth from the face, even then she did not cry. Then finally, a nurse of 90 years, an old nurse, maybe with all her years of wisdom and experience, she knew exactly what to do. And she got up, and Rose, a nurse, she got up from where she was sitting, took the child of theirs and put it on her knee, laid the child upon her knee. And when she seen her child, she started crying like summer tempest. What's a tempest? It's a violent storm. Just like a storm, the tears came flooding down her eyes, and she could not stop crying. And then she says, sweet my child, I live for thee. So she tells the child that she is living now only for the sake of her child. Now that she is the only parent to bring up her child, she is going to live only for her child. So this sad poem tells us how this young widow could not even cry because she was so shocked, and yet when she finally sees the child on her knees, her own child, she starts crying, thinking how he is orphaned without a father, and if she too lives, he will be completely orphaned and become motherless too. So she says, my child, my precious child, I am going to live only for you, to bring you up. So this is the summary of the poem, and if you want to understand it, Please read it again, children, and go through the poem once again. After that, you turn the page, you have exercises. Tick the correct statement. So when you read, you will know which is true and which is false, or the correct statement. You just put a tick. And then you answer these questions. You don't have to write them exactly in your notes now, but you just answer them orally. See if you could answer them. And then you even have extracts there, words from the lines from the text, from the poem. Try to answer that in your rough notes, and later when we send you the notes, you can see how much you were right about the reference to context and also the question and answers. And later on we will send you the vocabulary that you have here on page 63. Okay girls, I think we'll stop here for now. Have a nice day.